Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Dark Money Files, in which we shine a light into a murky world. Today it's called the Dark Laundry Files, and this is part 2 of a crossover podcast that we've done with the laundry. So normally I'd just be introducing my friend and business partner Graham Barrow. Say hello, Graham.
Hello, Ray.
But today I also have to introduce Marit from
Hello.
Strise. Hello. CEO of Strise, absolute industry superstar. Hello,
Oh
Marit.
God, thank you
And
so
it has to be
much.
said, the very, very, very first person ever, other than Ray and myself, to say anything on a Dark Money Files podcast.
Oh
Not
wow,
that I'm trying to make you nervous.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's lovely to be here with you, Marit, and thank you for flying in specially.
Of course. I mean, I'm just honored to be here, and also, just gotta say, I mean, I came into the industry a bit later than you guys, but
Uh-huh.
some of the content that you guys were posting was part of what made me find the passion for the industry as well.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's
yes, you've been
absolutely lovely.
inspirations and leading stars.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, look, one of the things that we wanted to do was to get proper value out of meeting with you. And both of us have a bit of an Achilles heel in compliance because the flavour of the month, well, the flavour of the decade probably, is artificial intelligence. And it's a terrible thing to confess, but I mean, I don't know very much about it, much less than I feel I should. And I suspect many of our listeners will feel the same. Is that fair, Graham?
I struggle with ordinary intelligence, Ray.
Well, indeed, yeah. Some
yes.
days any intelligence
Yes.
would do, to be honest. So I thought what we could do was use this special episode to present, if you like, everything you were afraid to ask about artificial intelligence in the past. So, Marit, tell us about how you got involved in artificial intelligence in the first place.
Well, so I did study robotics and
Well, that's fairly direct.
yeah, robotics and software development. They're including, AI. So I came from a technology background,
Uh-huh.
and then I was part of working on this AI project at the university in Norway. And it got spun out as its own company, and we did various like AI projects and with various type of clients. One of them being a bank, who then
Right.
said, "Okay, we did a project. It wasn't that successful," and they were like, "You know what you did there, not so important. But we have this thing called KYC that's pretty hard. You guys, maybe we should do a project together on it. It's quite complicated." And at the time, we used a lot of what's called graph technology or graph databases to kind of piece together a lot of data points, and it turns out that was really good for being able to piece together ownership, and that is of course very handy when you're doing KYB. So that was my entry into this.
So you just mentioned graph databases. Now, one of the things about AI, Marit, is it is replete with terms that not everyone might understand. So we've got things like machine learning, we've got supervised machine learning, large language models, we've got generative AI, we've got things called agentics. And help us out. Just take us through some of
Okay.
those terms, and if you can, explain them in kind of relatively understandable.
We'll try to make it super easy.
Yeah.
So let's just start with machine learning. So that is basically when a computer learns from examples instead of being explicitly programmed. And kind of bringing it back to our field, let's say instead of programming, you have a company and you know all these attributes that make it shady, like a shady shark. You could be, if it has this, then this. If this, then this.
Yep.
Instead of programming all of that explicitly, what you can do is then take a set of companies that you know to be shady, give it to a machine and see if it can then learn the patterns so that when the next new company comes in, you can classify it as shady or not shady. That is kind of the super basic explanation of it. So you give it examples that it learns from, like supervised machine learning. You give it examples it learns from. Hopefully it then learns enough that when you present it with something new, a new data point, it can then classify it into one or the other.
So large language models?
And that is something that's something different, and that is also it's like it's trained on vast amounts of text, so unstructured data, language, it's unstructured data, text, and they can understand and then generate human language or text. So for compliance teams, this means that a large language model can then take a lot of different data points and then summarize it, for instance. Or it can, if you give it a lot of data points, it can help you create some new text as well. So it's something a bit different.
Okay. So,
And
and
the
the one
architecture that's being used a lot is this GPT.
GPT, and kind of intriguingly, I saw an ad they started advertising on UK television, and the ad was about asking for something cool for a first date as a meal, and it was I thought it was quite effective. But the other one, the one I'm really interested in because it's quite new to me, is agentic.
Yes.
What's that about?
So that is kind of taking this LLMs or generative AI one step further. So instead of having generative AI, which kind of means that you can generate something, and now with these large language models, you generate text a lot, or you can generate images and you can generate video. But instead of just generating something new, you take it one step further, and you can have then computers also taking actions and making decisions upon what it has learned. So, for instance, in the financial crime world, you can think of it as suddenly you can use an agentic AI to decide whether or not this was a false positive or not.
Okay.
For instance, so it's kind of like the next. The next step beyond that. And of course it is the new shiny thing of the month, in a sense. Everyone is throwing this around. Everyone says it holds a lot of promise, but it's still in its early days.
Okay, now that's a really interesting point, because I can't be the only one who has started reading some material that's quite critical of some of the public models and what they're actually doing with them. So some people suggest that LLMs are just a sort of supercomputer implementation of ELIZA, the sort of 1960s program that they used to emulate an analyst and try and pass the Turing test. I remember being a computer hobbyist in the 80s and having a version of ELIZA in BASIC that did a pretty convincing job, I thought. But I was 14 at the time. Do you think that's a fair criticism? Are we just chucking a huge amount of computer power at something that apes rather than displays intelligence?
I think ELIZA. So first of all, it's crazy to think now that they had a chatbot in the 1960s, and just how long the ideas and how AI has kind of been in the making. But ELIZA, it had this. You could ask it. You could say to it like, "I am sad."
Yes.
And then ELIZA would answer, "Why are you sad?"
Yes.
So it was kind of had a few hard-coded these ones, but it just kind of mimicked and reflected what you said. And of course, it fell through when you asked it something outside of what it was programmed for.
Who won the FA Cup in 1952?
Yeah, then
no idea.
So
Couldn't
I
help.
do think then the depth is really the difference here, because now imagine all the different questions you can answer. You can ask ChatGPT or any of the other LLMs and solutions out there, whether it's Google's Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, or you can ask Claude. It's the depth, I would say, that's quite different.
And yet, oddly, coming in today, I couldn't help but notice that an Australian branch of one of the big four consultancies has just been
I saw that
fined
too.
£700,000 for doing a proposal for the Australian government that actually contained made up references to
Ooh.
historical, events,
Yeah,
and it was
they
just
had
full
to
of
reimburse
errors.
the. They had
So
to no, they had to
they
reimburse
had
the
to
customer
reimburse. Yeah,
because they had
absolutely.
it made up
Yeah.
references and a few scientific articles. I saw it too.
So that's so ChatGPT and others isn't self controlling. It will happily make stuff up,
Yeah, it's the
and you
generative
will
nature.
not have any notion unless you check it. I mean, there've been issues in America where
Mm.
legal cases have been cited which are completely fictitious. So it is a dangerous territory. Or do you think it has danger?
I think it's definitely worth being mindful and cautious.
Mm.
So, of course, you can, if you're using some of these models, you can put on guardrails, etc. But it is generative in its nature, so one need to be aware of the limitations. And of course, I mean, in financial crime, the obvious fall pits is like, oh, suddenly it makes up a PEP or a sanctioned
Yeah.
individual, you know. So
Right.
And
it does have some pitfalls, but yeah.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but where does it generate it from? Because if
So,
it's making stuff up, this is not
So
sitting
it is
inside a.
trained on like billions and billions of data points, right? So it's kind of trained on the internet and text that it like input that is
But these are
everywhere.
entirely manufactured
Mm.
cases. This is not stuff it's read anywhere. This just actually made it up. So I just think,
Based
where,
on
how?
everything that it knows.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, yeah.
So its job really, as I see it, is to be plausible rather than to be truthful. Which makes me think of criminal applications, because that's also a valid objective of your average criminal, isn't it? So how are the bad guys using this?
I mean, you guys have probably seen some of the same stories as I have.
Uh-huh.
Of course, now you can also fabricate, images and these things. So fake IDs,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I mean, the scam texts are just so much better now than it used to be. It can be hard to actually spot one, because I almost fell into this pitfall not too long ago, and I thought it was a credible email, but it wasn't. It was just total bullshit. You can have AI now that can call. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can have, you don't need necessarily call centers with people. You can have call centers with AI. That is one thing. And yeah, so those are, the main ones that we saw. I guess you both saw also the incident. Was it in Hong Kong when they wired, was it $20 million?
Oh
Because they
yeah.
thought they were on a call with the CFO,
Yeah,
but it just
exactly.
wasn't. So all these things as well. I mean, it's crazy. Can you imagine? You jump on a call, you think it's the CFO, turns out it's AI, and you lost $20 million.
I can't imagine actually. Well, I've got $20 million to
I
lose,
don't know
which
what
is
kind
Not
of have you
anymore.
seen any have you guys seen any interesting or not or scary interesting, like the ways criminals have used it? What have you guys come across?
Well, I think we haven't probably because I mean here in the UK you don't in our world you don't need to do it because you can do frankly laughable stuff and still
Mm.
get away with it, as you know from our LinkedIn
Yes.
posts. So it's like, but it won't take long. So I guess the follow-up question is, how's AI going to help us in that arms race then?
Yeah. I think also just to final point on the criminal side is just that now it's just so much easier to do a lot of things. Maybe before you needed to have a lot of technical expertise in order to, let's say,
Yes.
set up a fraudulent website. You needed to
Mm.
have more knowledge about how certain things work. But now that knowledge, like the threshold is so much lower,
Mm.
you can easily set up a very nice website in a few seconds using
Oh
some of
yeah.
these tools. If you have any questions about how to do certain criminal activities, you can just ask some of
Yeah.
these models. So I think in general, it just more access to knowledge around how to do fraudulent activity as well.
Mm.
So how do we fight back?
Yeah, that's the good question. I don't necessarily have all the answers, and I feel when I talk to a lot of people in the industry, everyone says like we need to use AI to fight back, but the recipe on how to is still not made. I mean, the one thing that is one of the thing that both that you hear a lot about, that I think the industry is kind of like aligned on, maybe we should do that, is of course use AI to empower the first and the second line of defense. So maybe you can reduce the time analysts spend on gathering information, analyzing information. Maybe you can have AI help summarize, present, show data, so everyone kind of, their knowledge can increase. Everyone having their own personal assistant. Imagine what you can, how much more every person could do if they, let's say, 30% of their time, 40% of their time was taken away from doing manual repetitive work, but doing analysis, thinking, understanding new patterns. That is one of the kind of promises that AI holds in the industry.
So it's the classic complaint, isn't it, that the job is ruined by the paperwork. So if you can take that away from the job, you're doing much higher value stuff. Okay,
that
cool.
is what,
I get that.
And also that's also one of the, when there's a new big technological shift coming now, such as AI, and then you can see the like overall productivity in every industry kind of increases. It doesn't necessarily actually play out in the sense that it will disrupt something or completely change something. It could be that these technologies like AI just goes into every industry everywhere and just increases the productivity by a certain percentages. And we could see that that is actually what's happening in compliance too. Instead of just imagining that, oh no, all the jobs will be gone. It will just be AI agents running around, dispositioning false positives, filing SARS, etc. So I think the future is still yet to be, but I think somewhere in between there. I saw also this example with I didn't like I saw this example in the passing. I think it was some American fast food chain that had received 18,000 orders of water.
Okay.
And of course, a human who had received that could immediately understand, like, no one is ordering 18,000,
right.
but an AI, the AI system that didn't. So it could be that, all the human work in this field is just elevated a bit. You sit, instead of gathering information yourself, you're more, okay, does this make sense or not?
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys?
Well, I was sitting listening, which is fascinating conversation. It absolutely takes me back to, not that I was there, but to the Industrial Revolution, where this, like, all these machines are going to take all of the jobs, and actually what happened was, by and large, that people got different jobs, new jobs. It was definitely the start of the service economy, because people then were freed to do more things. Like, they were able to have some leisure time because of the savings caused by machines. So I did notice Sam Altman the other day saying that he thought that in the decades to come, AI would be regarded as a basic human right, which I thought was quite an interesting proposition, that actually you couldn't survive as a human being without access to AI, which
Much
is kind
like Wi-Fi.
slightly scary, but
Yes.
but you can't stop it. There's genie is out the bottle, so I guess our challenge is to try and make sure that we make it work for the benefit of the many and not the few. At the moment,
and also you did
feels like
mention the Industrial Revolution. There
Yeah.
again, the like general productivity in the economy, kind of like that was also like a big boost from it. So it could be that we
Yeah.
see. But I think AI, some of the things that I have noticed and that I've spoken to people about, not just in the compliance industry, but more sort of every industry, and that is that, it kind of brings back the ability to do more things yourself. So, for instance, if you're a senior in an industry, maybe before you had a junior that helped you, let's say, write up presentations, writing up presentations, doing, let's say if you had a public speech or you needed some ideas or whatever, you can kind of bring back a little bit more of that yourself because you have the tools available with AI. It's a good creative sparring partner. Like if you're stuck on something, hey, give me some ideas. It might not do the work for you, but it kind of gets you started. So I think as well, what I've discussed with other people is that there's fewer maybe entry-level junior jobs, because that is the seniors do it more themselves.
Okay.
So that is something that I have noticed a bit.
How'd you get to be a senior then?
Yeah, exactly. So that is a big question. That is a
It's-
challenge that I do
it
think
is.
we as a society, not necessarily
Yeah.
in compliance, will need to face.
Okay. Now, one of the things I was particularly keen to ask you about is that as the CEO of a company that promotes AI to a wide range of people, I'd love to hear what you think people get wrong about AI. What do people believe about AI which is just misguided? And I'm talking here about CEOs, MLROs, and compliance heads. Team leaders, IT people, even. What do people believe that just isn't true or is misguided?
Mm, oh, it's such a good question. But sometimes I do feel, and maybe this is more the IT people or,
Okay.
hardcore AI users. Sometimes it's just, oh, just ask GPT to do it, you know? And then I'm like, no, this isn't, maybe down the line there will be tasks we can use AI for. But this is first
Right.
and foremost just that we as human beings need to sit down 30 minutes and get on the same page about what is the problem, the actual
Okay.
problem that we need to solve. We don't necessarily just need to use AI to create a solution right away. We're not aligned on the underlying problem, if you know
That's
what I mean.
fascinating.
So
Yeah, no,
that
I
is one
do.
thing. That
I
is one thing that I've noticed a lot. That
yeah.
a lot of people are just, oh, just get GPT to do it. I'm like, do what? We don't know what we want to do yet. We
Do you
don't
know
know what the
what?
problem
That's
is.
fascinating because now that you mention that, I realise that 90% of the value that you get is out of understanding the problem, not just fixing it.
Yes.
And
So that is
weirdly,
one thing that I have noticed a lot. And I think
Yeah.
actually it has matured me a bit too, because previously I could very well be like, oh, let's just jump into solution mode. Of course, I still love coming up with ideas and all
Yeah.
of that, but I think I've noticed it a lot now. So I'm been becoming a bit better at like, okay, let's take a step back. What is the problem to be solved?
Yes.
What's the target we want
Yes.
to achieve
Yes.
here? We don't necessarily, the AI is not the answer to everything because we don't know what
and
we're
there's a
going to
kind
do.
of general rule at work there, because Ray and I both come from a training background, and I can't tell you how many times that we've been involved with firms who've said, oh, we need to do some training. Why?
Yeah.
What is it you think the training is going to do for you? Because what is the underlying problem? And is it actually one that can be solved by training? Actually, quite often, and I think, Ray, you were just alluding to this, going through that thought process of why do we think we need it and what's the problem we're trying to solve is almost as beneficial as finding the solution, because very often the solution is a very different one from the one you start out thinking you
Yeah.
need. And I guess one of the things AI might well do is force people to think much more seriously about what ultimately is our problem,
Yes.
and is AI the answer? And I think a lot of the time, actually, the answer will be yes, but not always.
Yeah, and also maybe you can get to the solution faster using AI, but you still need to like align on the problem. Another thing that I have noticed a lot is, and this is not necessarily in compliance, but also just the fact, we run a podcast, we do a lot of marketing, and when these tools become available, oh,
Yeah.
let's create, we can create video with AI, we can create photos
Yeah.
with AI. And here's a good quote from like Jurassic Park. We use it in an episode once. It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Because now I feel creativity and original ideas are becoming even more valuable, because
Yeah.
it's so easy now for everyone to create a video about anything. But it's very quickly that
That's
you
true.
become desensitized to
Yeah.
like AI generated content, because the human machine is still very good at detecting if it's not made, if it's just like generic.
Yeah.
So having original ideas and putting even more effort into thinking, how will this stand out? How will this resonate with people? Is this something that's like
Yeah.
truly felt, like comes from someone
Yeah.
intended at an audience with like true care?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just create something generic. So I feel like the emotional aspects become even more important. Maybe that's just me, but that's something that I've felt a lot myself.
Here's my kind of final thought on this: is would AI have ever come up with the Beatles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's never been anything quite like them. It's quite hard to explain to people who weren't around at the time, and you wouldn't want to be because it would make you as old as me. But there was nothing like them before. Where did that come from? And the fact that they changed so much, and they were different elements, and I hang on to that as there'll always be a need for people, because I don't think the Beatles would have ever arisen any other way than from human beings.
Yeah, it's a
And I also
fascinating
do
case
really,
study.
I agree. And also, I do really believe what you said in the beginning, is that AI will come in, it can change things, but then it will be new jobs, different kinds of jobs. Okay, maybe we are able to alleviate some pain points from the first line of defense,
Yeah.
to sift through a lot of false positives, manual work, but then the nature of the work they do will be different. So maybe they are more overseers of AI. They kind of come to work in the morning. There's all these things that you need to kind of look at, yes or no. You kind of, but instead of going into the manual data point gathering yourself. So it will change. So I do believe it's very important for organizations, CEOs, like leaders, to foster a culture of like curiosity, innovation, testing. Like you can run some experiments, don't be afraid to fail, like have that, all these like human aspects
Sure.
of testing something new and bring that in. Because I mean, in the beginning, the AI, maybe it will fail, it will do a lot of things wrong, but at least let your people try it and
Sure.
foster creativity around it and see the solution. I really don't like it when people come in and be like, oh, it's going to take all of our jobs, everything will change, and now we can do some really cost cuts and AI will do everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's take a human approach. Let's be curious, interested, and let's see how it kind of goes.
And what will be the thing that makes AI look old-fashioned and out of date?
Oh, good question. I don't know. What do you think?
I genuinely, I don't know, but it will happen at some point, because it always does. And I don't know what it will be, but it will be spectacular. You will know this quite better than me, but it's about becoming indistinguishable from magic.
Oh yeah, any technology which is sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Arthur C. Clarke, I think.
Yeah. So I wonder in 50 years' time, we'll look back and think, oh, AI, look what happened after that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe like quantum computing has a major breakthrough and it becomes like super commercially available, and like cryptation just becomes obliviated, and there's like a whole new paradigm that we need to face. I don't know.
So if you can merge AI and quantum computing and 3D printing, maybe we can have a Star Trek replicator.
Maybe.
That's what I would particularly
Create a new universe.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think on that note, that's a on that bombshell. Yeah, that's a good speculative note to end on, perhaps. Thank you so much, Marit, for enjoying.
Well,
yes, I did enjoy.
Yeah. For indulging two people who just feel they ought to know more about these modern things.
Yeah.
And giving us the benefit of your expertise. We're very grateful. I'm sure our
honored
listeners will
that
be
you
too.
invited me.
Thank you.
Thank
kind
you
of
so
invited
much.
myself as well, but
That's okay.
That's good. That's good. That's what we rely on. Okay. Well, hope you enjoyed this experiment in having a third voice. Let us know, and we'd be happy to do more of it if that's what you want, listeners.
Yeah, and if you feel that you could be a third voice that we would enjoy talking to,
write to Graham.
Yeah. Snail mail, please.